Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the PG Show, where we talk about all things college football. And as the transfer portal is ramping up, we're going to talk a little bit of OU football, what I expect to see in the transfer portal. We're strictly talking about the transfer portal and not the recruiting updates. We'll get to those later in the week. But probably for the next week, I'll probably throw out maybe every day or every other day some updates on what I think is going to happen in the transfer portal for the University of Oklahoma. So let's start out by really just kind of looking at the obvious here for OU of who we've heard that is entering in the portal and officially into the portal and everything else, who's not going to be here because there's definitely going to be some spots and holes on the team that need to be filled. So, looking at portal outbound, right? Who is leaving the team? You've got Jordan Mukes, the DB, wide receiver Theo Wease, defensive back Joshua Eaton, DB Kendall Dennis, defensive lineman Alton Tarber. For those of you who don't know who he was a part of the 2022 recruiting class for Brent Venables and Todd Bates. Then you have Nick Evers, who was also a part of that 2022 class, DB Bryson Washington, Brey Walker, who only had 2 starts in 5 years for OU. Remember, he was a 5-star offensive tackle coming out of high school, so really just never panned out for him at the University of Oklahoma on the field. And then guys that have left the team, and some of them have even actually officially entered the portal. The other 2 we expect would be Clayton Smith, the 5-star linebacker, number 1 linebacker in, I believe it was 2021, I believe. He's officially entered the portal. Then we got the edge rusher, Kevonte Henry, who we expect to hit the portal, and then linebacker Joseph Wete, too. As far as guys that are declaring for the draft, accepted Senior Bowl invites, we know that are not returning to the team. Eric Gray, running back, offensive lineman, Wanye Morris, offensive lineman, Antoine Harrison. I expect Antoine Harrison to go within the first or second round of the NFL draft there. And then you've got defensive lineman Jalen Redmond. Kind of wish he would have stayed. I felt like it could have increased his draft stock. But hey, you can't dock the guys for going and trying to get that bag and provide for their families. Guys that are not able to return to the team, and you guys need to be keeping a mental track record of all of the positions that I'm saying here, because that's going to play a key role in who we go get in the portal. So, tight end Daniel Parker, tight end Braden Willis, offensive lineman Robert Congle, offensive lineman Chris Murray, defensive lineman Jeffrey Johnson, linebacker Deshaun White, linebacker TD Roof, DB Justin Broyles, DB Trey Morrison, punter Michael Turk, Casey Keller. Now, there are still some guys that we're still waiting to hear on whether or not they're coming back. Probably one of the more notable ones is CJ Colden, right? Will CJ Colden return to the Sooners in 2023? I have high hopes about it. Nothing has been confirmed as of yet. What does Key Lawrence decide to do? We kind of at this point have an understanding that DG's probably coming back. And then, what are we doing on the defensive side of the ball with some of these defensive linemen in terms of guys like Jeffrey? No, Jeffrey Johnson's out. Never mind. That's on me. So Oklahoma's got some holes that they got to fill. And we know that some of them could be potentially filled throughout the recruiting class, but you would expect a lot of them to be sitting, developing, probably not seeing the field. And there's a lot of hype around Clemson guys hitting the portal, guys that BV had recently recruited. And I know a lot of people are asking questions around, hey, who do we get from Clemson and who do we get from Texas A&M? So I'm going to go ahead and preface this bite now by saying this. As far as it comes with Texas A&M, yes, a lot of the guys that ended up there, Oklahoma offered. I would expect Oklahoma to take few and far between of those Texas A&M commits. I'd say if they took Texas A&M commits, it's probably going to be 2 or 3. If they took more than about 3, I would be really surprised. Now, when it comes to the Clemson guys, I think you're going to see a lot of Clemson dudes hit the portal. I expect Oklahoma to probably take about 5 or 6. So who are we hearing that Oklahoma could potentially take of guys that have hit the portal? Now, I know of several people in the portal right now. And then I know of several people that are not in the portal that are planning the portal and are coming to Oklahoma. Those names I cannot disclose to you. The first one being 4-star edge rusher Kevin Swint. So, and I almost said Stitt. So, man, that tells you that name's pretty close right there. Kevin Swint. Kevin Swint, he's had some production there. Here's the deal. I haven't heard too much hype around him in the University of Oklahoma, but it's a name that you have to keep an eye on, especially with Oklahoma having some needs at that position. He's a guy that you potentially would like to see come to Oklahoma. Then you've got the 4-star linebacker Sergio Allen, also from that 2020 class. Now, Sergio Allen, I have a little bit more favor on. I believe he ends up at OU. Out of high school, 4-star, 6'1", 230 pounds. He hasn't had a whole lot of production at Clemson. One thing you're going to notice is with a lot of these guys we're talking about, not tremendous amounts of production from these guys. 4-star cornerback Fred Davis from the 2020 class. I expect Fred Davis to be here. Cornerback. Again, another need for Oklahoma or a potential need for OU, and I think he would fit really well. These are all guys that know Brent Venables' schemes and structure. So in terms of would they fit, we know they're going to fit, and they know the defense. So what we saw this year in terms of Venables taking best available in the portal, you're going to see in 2022, 2023, Venables take what's going to best fit from the portal because he's here from the start. So he has a little bit of an upper hand and an upper leg on getting some of these guys here to Oklahoma. Other guys that I think you should really keep your eyes on that I don't think have hit the portal yet for Clemson that I think could be interesting for the University of Oklahoma. And the first one is the defensive lineman, trying to find him, DeMonte Capehart, 4-star defensive lineman. When he came out of high school, he was ranked 34 nationally, was fit at his position. Now remember, this was the class that Todd Bates and Brent Venables really killed it at for the defensive line. Now, I don't expect to see the top guys from Clemson in the 2020 class come to Oklahoma. If anything, I see those guys going to the NFL draft. I do not see Brian Breesy and those guys decommitting and coming to the University of Oklahoma. I think that's really high hopes. Now, DeMonte Capehart might be really high hopes, but he hasn't seen a lot of production at Clemson. And you would have thought he would have seen some production this year. So that's why I expect to see him here, because he could be looking at Oklahoma as an opportunity to see the field immediately. Again, knowing Venables' schemes, he committed to Venables. This is a guy who he's quick off the snap and he has the ability to go disrupt plays once he's in the backfield, right? He's violent. He comes back there with authority. He's able to track down the ball carrier. And listen, he works perfectly in the 3-man front because of how big he is. Now, the question is, has he developed the techniques that he needs at the time he's been at Clemson? Again, he's seen the field, hasn't had super high production. So, we'll keep an eye on that one. Potentially could hit the portal. I don't think he has yet, so don't give your hopes up there. Who are some guys outside of Clemson that I think OU's going to land? Well, we've heard it. Austin Stogner has hit the portal. He's looking to try to get closer to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if that's the case, I think you've got pretty well 2 teams here in the mix. You've got the University of Oklahoma. He's played here. And then you've got TCU. And we saw what TCU did this season. Now, I am 100% confident he will end up back at the Oklahoma Sooners in Norman. Lincoln Riley's not here. You have Jeff Lebby. It's a new opportunity, but it's with the school he's familiar with a fan base he's familiar with. His family's familiar with this area. I really think you guys see Austin Stogner in an Oklahoma uniform next season. And that is going to massively, massively fill the holes at tight end position that we're missing. Yeah, we have younger guys coming in, and we've had younger guys sitting in the back, but when you're able to bring in a guy like Austin Stogner, and I'm pulling up his stats right now, and what we've seen him be able to do, in 2019, he had 7 receptions for 66 yards. In 2020, he had his best year at 26 receptions for 422 yards, 3 touchdowns. In 2021, he only had 14 receptions, 166 yards. That's when he hit the portal to go to South Carolina. This year at South Carolina, he's only had 20 receptions for 210 yards, 1 touchdown. Again, I fully expect to see him back. Oklahoma fans should be excited for Stogner. I believe he still likes covered wagons. Other guys that we should really be paying attention to, the 4-star safety, Myles Slusher. So I know all of you guys saw him announce that he was going to enter the transfer portal. Now, as of today, I don't think I've seen his name officially in there yet. But if he still looks to enter the transfer portal, this is a guy that I would expect Oklahoma to be able to be all in for. He's a 4-star safety out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And for guys that maybe didn't come to Oklahoma during the Lincoln Riley era, I would expect if they're in the portal, Venables is going to make a push to go out there and get these guys, especially if they have production in the Power 5 level, and Venables thinks that they can bring in tremendous production to the University of Oklahoma next year. And remember, the secondary has always really been a weak spot for Oklahoma. Now, next year, it could be a little bit better, but if you bring in a guy like Myles Slusher, then maybe losing a CJ Colden to the draft doesn't hurt you as bad. In 2021, CJ Colden had 50 total, or Myles Slusher had 50 total tackles. It looks like I'm looking for the interceptions. He had 2 interceptions that year. He had 33 solo tackles. In 2022, he had 28 total tackles, 18 solos. He had 2 sacks, but no interceptions. And then in 2020, he had 15 total tackles. So Myles Slusher has produced at Arkansas. And again, as a junior, I expect to see potentially Myles Slusher in an Oklahoma uniform. And I think he just brings a much-needed upgrade back there. Him and Billy Bowman, they would definitely be able to potentially be a no-fly zone if you provide the too high safety look to any of those quarterbacks starting next year. Another guy that you could potentially be watching is Braden Fiske from Wyoming. Man, it looks like we're starting to really start to recruit the University of Wyoming well. And listen, if this guy is it's not Wyoming, it's Western Michigan. I'm sorry. They look like the same in terms of their mascot, but okay. Western Michigan, Braden Fiske. If there is any indication that this guy can be what CJ Colden was coming out of Wyoming, I think you'd have yourself a pretty good defensive line player. When you look at him, he is a strong defensive end. He is able to completely move offensive linemen. And at 6'3", about 250, 260, this is a guy that I think could potentially come in and play your edge. I don't know if he's big enough to play your interior D-line, especially when you're trying to go for the 3-man front. But this could be a guy where you pull 4-man front up there, and he could definitely come make an impact. Another guy that you guys should definitely be able to keep an eye out for. You've heard a lot about the McCullough brothers. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Don't really need to get into it. They're probably coming to Oklahoma. They're taking visits up here this weekend, office visits to the university. You would expect for Brandon Hall and Venables to be able to close that one out. The last one that I have on my list that he currently committed, or he went into the transfer portal earlier, one that I think everybody should keep their eye out on, Justin Flowe, the 5-star linebacker in 2020 who committed to Oregon, has hit the transfer portal. He was the 6th-ranked player nationally, the number 1 inside linebacker, number 2 player in the state of California. When you look at Justin Flowe, 6'2", about 240, he has a powerful lower body, and he can plays with a lot of effort and passion for the game. With his talent and the lack of depth that we had at the linebacker position this past season, and that's no knock to the players that are currently there. It's just we don't have any depth, right? We don't have as many bodies. he would be a guy that could come in and immediately make an impact for the University of Oklahoma and potentially start. And this is a guy that you could potentially see play the cheetah role because he has really good speed and he has really good mobility, especially on the lateral. He provides big hits and he has impeccable timing and instincts to be able to get past the blocks. So I like Justin Flowe a lot. Now, I think this one's a stretch. I don't think Oklahoma has a super great shot at landing him, but it's a name to keep out for. I would definitely expect Venables and Ted Roof to be able to throw out an offer to Justin Flowe and really try to be able to recruit this guy into the University of Oklahoma. So that's all I have for today. If there are any other big updates or anything like that, we're going to throw up a video, but otherwise be looking about for another 2 days for another transfer portal update. I know, listen, I'm going to be regurgitating a lot of information that you guys might be seeing, but I'm just going to kind of give you guys my thoughts where I think they're going to land. I'm trying to talk to a lot of players or a lot of friends of the players, just trying to get a feel for where these guys are going to land. So again, some of it might be information that you guys hear and see that I'm regurgitating, but I'm trying to give you guys a little bit more information and insight to just kind of what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and what I believe could happen with some of these players at Oklahoma. So go ahead, hit the like and the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of December. So if you have not hit the subscribe button already, please do that. It really helps me out. Share this with more Sooner fans. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you later. Boomer.